Kia ora. We were lucky enough to be visited at the fish team by Marianne Nyegaard, expert on the ocean sunfish, a really charismatic group of fishes. Very, very unusual looking fishes, but it's hard not to be fascinated by these animals. I just wanted to give you a quick heads up before we get into the video that we are going to be doing some dissections of some very large and very beautiful animals. So it is going to be messy. It's going to be a little bit gross. They have a lot of parasites. But also I just wanted to emphasize that these are dissections of deceased animals being done by people who have a love and respect for them and want to learn more about them. So even though it looks quite grisly, it comes from a place of sort of respect and understanding. But if that's not what you're into, then feel free to click away. I was calling it the big one, but it's not a big one. It's a medium one.
Well, everything is relative, but it was tiny in the end. It was just over 40 kilos.
Really?
I would say a more normal weight would be a couple of 100 kilos. They can reach at least 2.7 metric tons. So even if we struggled lifting it,
the fact that people could lift it is a...
Yeah, two people could lift it, but it was still heavy. And it just kind of hit home. It was only 40 kilos, but it's awkward. It is minute, really, compared with how big they can get, yeah.
So why sunfish?
Well,
why something that looks like a child's drawing come to life?
Well, I mean, I saw sunfish at the Natural History Museum in Denmark when I was little, about maybe 6, 7, 8 years old. And I remember standing and kind of looking up and thinking, how can that be a fish? Like, that is just the most bizarre thing. Fast forward, I was working in Western Australia in the consultancy industry and really felt like a sea change and decided to go back to university and do a PhD. And I discovered by the Bali region that you can see sunfish there when you scuba dive. And I thought, well, it's just up the road from Perth where I was living. This is a great PhD. And so I sort of, without really having any good understanding of what I was getting myself into, I started this PhD and I haven't been able to look away. I often think, I should move on now from sunfishes. And then
they just keep pulling you back.
They have this firm grip on me.
Well, they're still turning up so many questions. This whole last 2 days has just been questions, more unusual observations, more interesting sort of little bits coming up. Like you were telling me about them rapidly changing colour.
Yeah.
And a lot of the diver footage we see, the fish is already aware of the diver. It's already putting on this like slightly threatening, slightly sort of keep away from me sort of colour. So that harsh, dark top, sort of pale belly.
I mean, it's still speculation, I guess. So what we know for sure now is that they can do that rapid change in their contrast of the skin patterns. So when they're pale, they're kind of grayish and you can still see their patterns, but they're very low contrast. And then in a matter of seconds, 10, 15 seconds, they can go to virtually black and white. And so the upper bit of the fish will be black with white dots, and then the underside or the belly side will be either white or have some darker patterns on it as well. Darker.
It just gets more extreme.
It just gets very extreme. And I'm guessing that it's an aggressive display or a warning display to divers, but I don't know. Typically, they'll come right up to the divers and sort of do this drive-by and just kind of, like just show their big lateral side or the side of themselves to the divers and swim by. So they're not panically rushing off or anything. They're very calmly just doing this round.
Just letting you know that they've seen you.
Yeah. So I'm guessing it's a warning signal. One of the things that hasn't really been done in the sunfish world is comparing the different species. So understanding how each species looks like, it's still so recent that during dissections, and I keep going, what's that? That doesn't look like the other species, and you kind of need them next to each other.
Because externally they're not massively different, are they?
No.
But internally,
it seems like there are
stuff's
some
in different places.
There are some differences, yeah. It's sort of an iterative process as well. You sort of dissect something and you kind of go, that's not what I saw in the other species.
I'm lost in here.
And then you have to start collecting data on that bit. For example, the size of the kidneys seem to be really different between alexandrini and tecta. But of course, I haven't really noticed
until you built up.
And then now I've got no data on it. but they don't come around very often. And usually you just have one specimen. And so this dissection was super special in that we had 8. And so when we were looking at the first one and couldn't determine, was that a female? The gonad was so small. And then we got some males, and then we got another female. And just because we saw them right after each other, we could go, oh, yep, no, that is exactly correct.
They were almost identical size. They were all caught at the same time. It was a nice sample.
So to have 7 next to each other that you can just boom, boom, boom compare was just amazing. Amazing.
And what ones were we looking at? What
Mola alexandrini.
That was that.
All 8 of them.
Okay. I jokingly said that they look like a child's drawing come to life. Like, this is an extreme distortion of the fish body plan. The whole tail and sort of caudal fin region that has now become called the clavus.
Yes. Well, so the tail region, like from a normal fish, if there was such a thing, fish in general, they have this tail, and that is basically gone in sunfish. So the structure is not there at all. And instead, elements from the dorsal and anal fins kind of grow together at the back there and form this flap called the clavus. So when you look at it, and what is the back end is actually part of the dorsal and anal fin.
Joining in the middle through lack of tail.
Today, when we were looking at the muscle structure associated with the top bit and the bottom bit, like, I have never seen that difference before. Now I have to go back and look. Did I just miss that before, or is that a species difference? So we need another 8 sunfish.
Okay, we'll get on it. No, we can do it. We can do it. We've done it once. We'll do it again.
Yep, call me. I'll be right here.
So we did have some full-on messy dissections. We probably all smell. So that was messy, but that was genuinely really interesting because it's such a modified body plan. Familiar structures were in really different places, and that they didn't feel how I expected, because I knew they were heavy, I knew they were big, but they're buoyant as well. And so the massive reduction of the skeleton and the body just encased in this collagen, which felt like syntactic foam. It felt like a float. You know, that really dense styrofoam or something like that. It almost felt squeaky when you were cutting it, and it cut like cheese.
It's a really nice structure, though, to cut through.
It's brilliant white. Everything else is kind of mucky and gory, and then there's this like
coconut white sort of, it's nice. And I like the way that it's both rigid and flexible at the same time.
I thought it would feel almost like a boxfish, like it was in an armored body. And then the denticles and the skin, these little sort of toothy nodules. It was it's my first chance. I've swam with them and I've seen them before, but it's my first chance to sort of get hands on
and kind of go, what's this here, and all of that. So it is pretty neat to be able to mess around with them a bit and have a better look at some of these structures. And we were talking about today, you know, that bony bit on the nose, for lack of better words. Like, what's that for?
And we also found the pharyngeal jaws, which were not like pharyngeal jaws I've seen before. I've usually seen like cutting, grinding plates.
Right.
And these were sort of finger-like little blades. Like Freddy Krueger hands.
Oh, yeah. No, they're awesome. And they sit embedded in this muscle, and you can just imagine how they somehow move in there.
Just moving the gelatinous food, because it wasn't chewing. It might be straining the water out, or it might be... We had a few thoughts.
Like, how tiny was the brain? Just tiny. Yeah. You know, so they're not the smartest.
They're not geniuses. No, probably not. Trying to think what else came up today other than this. The parasites.
Oh yes, the parasites.
They pick up hitchhikers.
I mean, a lot of them are quite cool. I quite like the parasitic copepods in the gills. They are, I mean, amazing, and I can deal with them no problem. But all the tapeworms. I think it's just it's the amount of them.
The gut is clean. It looks clean because it's just tapeworm.
Oh, and it's just the way that they come out in this big.
It's bad ramen. It's bad ramen. It's ramen you've cooked for too long.
Yeah. And did you see how I managed to palm the job off to Andrew?
You delegated.
I delegated.
Yeah, I know.
Delegated.
It's interesting, but it is gross. It is gross.
It's just...
And the smell changed once we'd opened the gut.
Oh, yes. There's that distinctive sunfish smell, but I'm kind of prepared for it, you know. And then so many people just said, sunfish really have a distinctive smell, don't they?
It's glamorous being a scientist, so we got poo samples as well.
Oh, yes.
Because poo was quite precious because it's mainly worms.
Everyone wants to be a marine biologist, but the reality is just...
It's not all swimming with dolphins. How long do they live to build up so many parasites?
That's a really good question. One of the kind of pressing questions I think that needs to be resolved is how fast do these fish grow and how long do they live for?
Isn't it one of the biggest size differences between juvenile and adult?
Yeah.
In terms of mass.
In terms of, yeah, exactly. Hatch at 2 millimeters and then they reach many hundreds of kilos. Yeah, just a small one.
Just a little mini.
Like a mini, yeah.
Yeah. It's got that kind of build to it and the face with the eyes on the side.
Yeah. And so in the captivity, there's no doubt that they have the capacity to grow really fast. Well, I think it's about 20 to 25, 23 years, I think, to reach 3 meters in length. So it's almost like looking at sunfish, you sort of, there's more questions come up. And I think that's why I have such difficulties moving on and looking away.
Because they're not finished. There's lots to do.
It's just all too interesting, There's all of these new techniques coming out all the time, looking at aging, Yeah.
That's why we take all the samples we can, because the whole point of this place is that it's going to keep going for 100, 200 years, and who knows what they're going to have then.
Yeah.
So you put things away thinking like, I don't even know what they're going to do with you. It's going to blow my mind.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's a good way of looking at it. Imagine what future people are going to do with this stuff.
Don't worry, I got you back. Got your sample.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for chatting.
Oh,
I know you're
you.
exhausted. It's been an intense couple of days, but I just wanted a little chat at the end.
Yeah, and thank you guys so much for all your help. Like just to put this in perspective, it took me a whole day to process one little sunfish on my own, and we have done 8 in 2 days. So with everyone pitching in, it has just been, good fun and really valuable and
Of all them to Bob, it's been a great opportunity to play.
Yeah, good. I'm glad you guys had fun, despite the smell.
The smell, yeah, but everything's going in the wash now, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, but let's go force ourselves on other people and find out how much we actually smell.
Yeah, sounds good.